Hey, everybody, welcome to The Hated Ones, a new title for an old type of episode. These are the ADP fallers over the last about 10 days or so, and we'll talk about why. We'll talk about whether it changes anything for us and whether it should change anything for you. Welcome to the program. I'm Dan Vespris. This is Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball presented by FanDuel and the FanDuel Sportsbook. You can find me on Twitter at Dan Vespris, DanBesbris. This is the time of year where I start to do things back on social media again after kind of a April 13th or whatever it was hiatus until like 2 weeks ago. There's just no reason to be tweeting rampantly through the summer, but there is now because there's stuff going on all the time. So please do find me over there. Also, hit that subscribe button if you like what we got going on over here at Old Man Squad, and I'll remind you to do that again a little bit later on in the program. A like would also be cool for you YouTubers. Let's begin, he says, as he realized he forgot to actually put the window up on the screen. There we go. These are the ADP fallers, also known as the hated ones. The hated ones. We need buzzier names this year, so that's what I've been working on. I'm in the lab coming up with search engine optimized terminology. That's what I have to say to that. But you got to do it. Got to do what you got to do. Here are the names. Nothing fancy here. I just put them all on one page. There's 12 of them. We did 12 risers. We're doing 12 fallers. That's, it's a round of players in fantasy basketball. For those that are listening, I will read them all to you now. Tyler Herro, Malik Monk, Paolo Banchero, De'Aaron Fox, RJ Barrett, Alex Sarr, Michael Porter Jr., Lauri Markkanen, Cam Johnson, Jalen Green, Cam Thomas, and Ja Morant are the 12 names headed down the board. Let's start at the top. We'll talk about them one by one, why it's happening, and whether or not we should be changing anything from it. We're going to try to get this show in about 2 minutes per player or so. We'll probably stop on some a little bit longer, some a little bit shorter. But my goal is to get you in and out of here in about a 25-minute episode of OMSFB. Tyler Herro down 10.9 slots. His ADP falling now to number 66. This is merely a course correction. His ADP was around 35-ish. Before the injury. There isn't anything else to say, really, other than, look, like, this is going to keep going down until it finally hits where its final ADP resting point, because he's not about to magically get uninjured before the season starts. Me personally, you guys know my rule. One of the like three main tenets of Old Man Squad fantasy basketball style of play is not to draft injured players. There's certainly caveats to that, like if you have 3 IL slots or more and you can get an injured guy in like the 10th, 11th, 12th round that has big time appeal. But right now you still have to get Tyler Herro in probably the 6th or 7th round. And just looking at the board around those guys, who's going near Tyler Herro in that 6th, 7th round range? I mean, you can still get Herro's his pre-rank is 66 right now. Like, you can get Peyton Pritchard at 68, who might be almost as good as Herro, but actually there for the entire year. Jared Allen, 62. DeAndre Ayton, 65. OG Anunoby, 72. Gobert, 74. Jakob Poeltl, 75. Mark Williams, 76. It goes on and on and on. I see absolutely no reason to draft someone who's going to miss the first 6 to 8 weeks of the season. Even if we say 4 to 8 weeks, like maybe there's a chance he's back in a month. I do not want to get out to a slow start. That one's a no for me. It's a no for me, dog. Malik Monk is the next name on the board. He's down 8.8 slots to 119.7. And this is finally, we have fixed the Malik Monk issue, which was that he was being drafted to begin with. The Kings want to get out from under his contract. They brought in Dennis Schroeder to be the starting point guard so they don't have to flex back and forth between defense first Keon Ellis and offense first Malik Monk. And when I say defense first and offense first, I kind of mean like only one or the other. Keon Ellis does not play offense. Malik Monk does not play defense. If they could have somehow, Power Rangers style, just grafted Malik Monk and Keon Ellis together, you would have had a terrific basketball player. But you can't do that. That's not how human bodies work. You can't just push them together. You can't make a chimera like a mouse. And also you can't create an adult that fast. So, see, I knew I was going to use my upper division genetics class at some point in fantasy basketball. Monk should not really be drafted. that's where I'm at with Malik. I think there's a very real chance that he gets pushed to the periphery in Sacramento. He may get in there and have a big game every once in a while. He's very points and assists focused with almost nothing else, which I guess is something. But like, even if those are the only two categories you're hunting for, you're in this guard build, say, and you got all your key big men, you like the fit works on your team. You could take Malik Monk at pick 144 or 152 or whatever and see if he does enough if you're punting every big man category. But otherwise, I mean, that's not what this show is about anyway. And also, if you're thinking, hey, what if the Kings are good this year? Vegas doesn't think so. Sacramento Kings regular season win totals 35.5. That is higher than the Mavericks, so at least they got that going for them. Over at FanDuel and the FanDuel Sportsbook, you can get down on, it's actually pretty even money right now. Not even money. Like the normal $10 VIG is still basically there on both. The over's at -108, the under's at -112. That's at FanDuel and the FanDuel Sportsbook. 35.5 on the Kings. I would lean to the under. I think they're actually going to be kind of bad this year, but what do I know? Paolo Banchero is player number 3 on the board. I'm going to try to highlight the names that I'm talking about so YouTubers, you guys can fast forward and rewind somewhat more simply. Banchero down to 22, and that's going to keep on going. And unfortunately, when I navigate to other tabs on my computer, the highlight goes away. Whoopsies. I expect Paolo to, because his pre-rank down now is down near 40, so his ADP is probably going to kind of chase in that direction, but it's nowhere near there yet. It's dropping about 1 every single day. So I did this board a day and a half ago, and he's down to 24 now instead of 22. So it's falling, and it's going to keep going, and it should keep going. And unfortunately, there's only so many times I can talk about Paolo Banchero and see the same comments in the responses over and over again. And you guys can keep saying it here. You can keep saying it on Twitter. He is just not a player whose very good reality basketball game translates to 9-cat fantasy basketball. It just doesn't. It translates to points league fantasy basketball. He was number 37 in points leagues last year. But the 3 categories where Paolo is worst at, free throws, then turnovers, then field goal percent, in that order, are the 3 categories that points leaguers don't really have to pay attention to, but 9-category players do. If you were an 8-cat punting free throw, he was number 55 last year. So you got him somewhere in the realm of his 40 range. He's not too far off from that. But if you're a just straight 8-cat, he still wasn't even close. He was number 92 last year. If you were just punting free throws, he still wasn't close. He was still just number 75 last year. And if you're like, oh, I think things are going to improve for him. Yeah, but the right thing has to improve for whatever weird build you're putting together. When I say weird, it could be almost anything, but like it's going to be some sort of build. Because you're not taking Paolo in a straight Roto 9-cat draft. You're just not doing it. And if you do it and then you tell me, Dan, I did Paolo, I'm going to be like, what? Have you not listened to one word I've said? He could, if you could get him in the late 4th, early 5th round, and you're in a big man build, that's probably where it makes sense because you don't really care about turnovers. You're going to draft so many bad free throw shooting big men later on that turn it over 1.1 times a game. That 3 from Paolo is not even going to make a dent in your lead in turnovers. And he's going to give you points and some assists and some threes from a power forward eligible guy who's bad at free throw shooting. I could see where that fit might make sense. So there are teams where he could go. They're just not mine. De'Aaron Fox is down 6 more spots to number 32.9, and his pre-rank is at 36 now, so I'm assuming that this ADP is probably going to slow down. Fox is a situation where he was going way too early with or without the news that he's going to be injured to start the year. I think they're hoping that he's only going to miss like 2 weeks, so it's not a real big deal. But he was just like this number, his original number in particular, because he had a pre-rank of 19 at one point during this run-up. That's crazy. I know he was dealing with the busted finger in San Antonio after the trade, but he has almost no prayer of getting into the second round with the Spurs this year. After the trade, he was like a top 60 kind of guy, and I expect it to be better than that. But I'm looking at De'Aaron Fox as someone who's going to be ranked between 30 and 60. And so I think once his ADP settles, I'd be targeting him in the 4th round. Because I don't think he falls into that category of don't draft injured guys, because I imagine we'll probably get an update over the next week-ish. We only have 9 days before the season starts on how far away Fox is. I'm assuming he'll be back in very early November. You could weather a 1 to 2 week injury from De'Aaron. I still don't want to do it, but I also understand that point guards of his ability don't grow on trees. And so if that type of guy falls into the 4th round and you have 3 very healthy guys to start your team, you could do it. Still, would I? No. Because his pre-rank is 36, and guys behind him that are not hurt, and I think might actually just be better than him this year. Austin Reeves still on the board. I think there's a chance that Desmond Bane actually beats him. Derek White is right next to him in pre-rank. I'd rather have those guys. I'd rather get another safe play and take Kawhi Leonard at the end of the 4th round, beginning of the 5th round as my risky guy. RJ Barrett, this dude cannot fall fast enough. He's down 5.7 slots to 83.8. And when I say can't fall fast enough, I mean he needs to fall faster if I even want to have the remotest chance of thinking about it. Much like Paolo Banchero, RJ Barrett is a guy who you should only be considering if you're in a points league format. Otherwise, it makes no sense. He was number 230 last year in 9 category leagues, 139 in 8 cat, 75 in 8 cat with a punt free throw, and 70 in points leagues last year. And his job's getting smaller, ladies and gentlemen. He's joining a refreshed, I shouldn't say joining, he was already there, but he's part of a refreshed Raptors roster that has a healthy Brandon Ingram, a healthy Emmanuel Quickley, a healthy Scotty Barnes. Gone are the tank fest days of yesteryear, meaning just this last season, where the Raptors were literally trading off playing their guys. And so RJ Barrett got 17 shots and 5.5 assists and 5.5 free throws, and he was able to pile up enough usage to get himself into the mix, even in points leagues. I don't even think he's a top 100 guy in points leagues this year. He's certainly not going to be remotely close to playable in 9 cat. 8 cat punt free throw, I think there's a chance he inches up on the 100, 120 range. So that's where maybe you could make a case. Otherwise, let's keep going. Hey, before we keep going, I know I've mentioned this on shows. I'm trying to keep everything I do completely free forever. And so this year I opened up a $1 Patreon account. It's the patreon.com/oldmansquad. It's very easy to find. $1. That's it. I don't even need it. I'm going to keep doing all this stuff for free regardless. But this is a way that if I'm looking down the line a couple of years, maybe I don't have to take up a job driving for Instacart. Not doing that right away. My children are going crazy, but it appears to be happy noises, so I guess we can pod over that. Alex Sarr. So anyway, do it, don't do it. I don't care. Obviously, if you do it, I'll be grateful to you, but it's not going to change anything I do. Certainly not for this season, and probably not for at least another 2 or 3. So I really want to give it time to build up to a number where I can be like, look, I can do everything for free forever, guys. And all it took was $1. Alex Sarr down 5.5 slots to 79.6. He was going way too early to begin with. And this is just a good opportunity to talk about Alex Sarr a little bit, who probably gets better this year. I feel like that's a pretty safe thing to guess, because he was number 164 last season, largely because both percentages were bona fide train wreck numbers. He shot 39.4% from the field. This is a center shooting sub 40%. He was at 68% at the free throw line. And if you turn those both off, if you were punting both percentages, he was top 100. Problem is, we can't really say how much something is going to improve for him. And it wasn't like there was this big, Alex Sarr figured it out kind of moment at the end of the year. Remember Trae Young, just to use an example of someone who got markedly better at shooting at the end of their freshman campaign in the NBA. Trae Young was shooting low 30s, and then towards the end of the year, he got up to low 40s. Alex Sarr went from 39 to 40 at the end of the year. His field goal percent went up by 1. I don't know where it's going to go. 41, 42. I certainly don't think we can bake in a 44, 45 or better kind of jump. That's a big leap. He has upside. Big-time blocks guy. Gets great steals from the center position. But I think we have to treat Alex Sarr exclusively as a punt field goal big. So someone you would pair with a guard build team where you are overloaded in free throw percent. You don't care if you have one guy who's not as great there, but he's going to get you some threes, some scoring, some assists, some steals, some blocks, and you're not spending any draft capital on a field goal percent category. Straight 9 cat, I'm not drafting him. Not unless he fell to, certainly outside the top 100. He would have to get outside the top 100 for me to look at him in straight 9 cat. And in a guard build, he's a guy you probably reach for a little bit. You probably do take him near 80 because he is such a good fit in that build. And if he gets better, then he could be a pretty impressive dude in that build. Michael Porter Jr. down 5.4 slots to 65.9. And this ain't quite far enough, but he's probably, the good news here, I guess, is he's probably going to fall farther because this is the result of a big Yahoo 80 or pre-ranked shift about 10, 11 days ago. Yahoo dropped him from number 52 on their board to number 76. And this is the ADP now is sort of like your lagging indicator of that pre-rank adjustment. So presumably he's going to keep falling probably into the 70s. Do not draft Michael Porter Jr. in an unlimited games league. Just don't do it. Put him on the DND board for you. In a games cap format, I would consider him in the 80s. Like, let's say it got to your pick in the 80s, and Sarr Thompson is gone, and Christian Brown is gone, and Donovan Clingan is gone. So your three favorite late 70s, early 80s upshot guys are off the board already. And you're left with a choice of Michael Porter Jr. or Bradley Beal or Jalen Suggs or Mikal Bridges. You could make an argument for Mikal Bridges as someone who's probably just going to chunk along at an 85 to 95 clip and be healthy every day. Or, and by the way, that's why you'd go that direction in head-to-head because someone who plays every day is actually valuable there. Or if you're in a games cap league, maybe you're like, I'll go MPJ at 85, and hopefully I'll get kind of top 55, top 60 production out of him for, 60 to 65% of the season. But again, we're sort of threading a needle here with a lot of these guys. In fact, almost all of them so far have been needle thread type of dudes. And most of the names on this list over this last week and a half are needle thread kind of guys. That's a weird phenomenon, isn't it? Lauri Markkanen is the next name on our board. He's down 4.5 slots to number 50. And this is another one where it's kind of a lagging indicator of Yahoo moving him down 15 paces on their own board. And then the ADPs tend to follow that a week and a half later, or whatever it is. Markkanen is currently listed as a late 5th round pick. Technically, I guess he's still going kind of early to mid 5th round. This is when the risk guys come off the board. Joel Embiid is going in this range. Kawhi Leonard is going a little bit before this range. Jimmy Butler got pushed up a bit, so somehow he's not in this range anymore. Darius Garland is in this range. And when you line them all up, and even Walker Kessler, who's on a tanking team, you could put as kind of a risk in this area. If you line all of those risk guys up, Lauri Markkanen probably, other than Kawhi, has the highest per game potential. But when you're comparing the different types of risk, to me, that's where the difference sets in. So yeah, you got Markkanen and Kawhi and Garland and Kessler and Embiid. All of these guys are red flag dudes in some capacity. But the different types of red flags separate them. Markkanen and Kessler are red flags because we just don't know if their teams are going to play them enough at all. Do we think they're going to push through this? I mean, this is set to be a tanking year for Utah. They got rid of all of their veterans. So then it's besides Markkanen, basically. So then does it become a year where the Jazz just play all their guys freely because they're going to be terrible anyway? Or do they continue to preserve Markkanen for a potential turnaround next year? I don't know. Same story with Kessler. So I'm inclined to lean away from those guys. At least with, say, Kawhi, You know what the risk is coming into the year. He's going to sit back-to-backs, but when he's out there, he's going to be amazing, and his team's going to play him if he's healthy enough to play. I don't think he's getting punished for this aspiration stuff. Certainly not this year. Joel Embiid, you know he's a mess coming into this year. Would you take that risk? I wouldn't. Darius Garland, you know he's hurt to start the season, but we have at least some idea of how long. So I think for the Dan Besbris universe, and by the way, this is a great time to remind you guys to please subscribe to the program and check out our friends over at fantrax.com/oldmansquad. All you got to do is sign up for an account. I don't even care if you play there this year. I just want you to look around, poke around at Fantrax and see if it tickles your fancy in any way. See if it tickles your pickle. Fantrax.com/oldmansquad is the link over there. I would prefer to take a risk on a guy where I have a little bit more information about what the season may hold. And with Markkanen, I don't think we have that much information. So I'm not taking him here. He's a guy I would look at a round later. Same with Embiid, actually. They're one round too early for me to take the risk on these guys. And also, that's only if I went risk-free leading up to them. So if I made 5 very solid picks, I might look at Markkanen or Embiid in the 6th round. If anything that I did in the first 5 rounds is risky, then you don't go that direction. Cam Johnson is very much the one of these things is not like the other on today's program. He's down 4.3 slots to number 85, and I could not possibly tell you why. There's been absolutely no bad news about the Nuggets of any kind this entire season run-up, and yet, while Christian Braun is zooming up the board as fast as humanly possible, Cam Johnson is going the other way. I don't get it. Cam Johnson's going to be great this year. He got 13 shots a game in Brooklyn last year. I don't even know that we need him to get all the way to 13 shots this season. He was number 52 in 9-cat for Brooklyn last year. He's going to be on a team where there's a lot of ball movement, a ton of ball spacing. He's going to have the most open looks he's ever dreamt of in his whole damn life. He's going to be a high percentages guy who gets you points and threes, some assists. His steals are usually decent. I would argue usually a little bit better, actually, than they were this last year. His minutes were depressed by a tanking team. His games played were depressed by a tanking team. All of that stuff is off the board. You just need him to not blow out a meniscus or anything like that. And I can see him getting to 65 to 70 ball games. You can get him near 90 now. And I think you've got 3 rounds of potential growth on that. I love Cam Johnson where he's going. 85, the ADP of 85 is continuing to trend down, believe it or not. And I already liked him. Around 80 is one of my favorite names on the board. At 90, I'll sell my soul for getting some Cam Johnsons this year. Jaylen Green is the next name on the board. He's finally an example of somebody who's moving down the board, and I think is going to settle in probably about the right spot. Because looking back at the names we've talked about on today's show, Cam Johnson's too late. Lauri Markkanen's too scary. Michael Porter Jr. is too tanky. Alex Sarr was going way too early, so I don't know that the ADP is ever going to quite get low enough. Same story for RJ Barrett and Paolo Banchero. De'Aaron Fox, maybe he gets around where he probably belongs. Tyler Herro, you know me, I'm not taking the injury guys. Oh, Malik Monk is at least like moving off the board now. But Jalen Green is down 4 slots to 70, and looking back at what's been going on since then, let's see if he's even farther down the board now or if he's leveled off. 71 and change. So he's still moving down, not super fast anymore, but this is a situation where somebody's ending up about where they should go. But specifically, if you're in a particular team build. Jalen Green was number 128 last year. If you think he does about the same stuff this season in Phoenix as he did in Houston, I think that's fairly reasonable. It might be a tiny bit less because now he's behind Devin Booker instead of sharing with Alperen Şengün, but also the Suns don't have as many different options as the Rockets did. So, 6 of one, half dozen of the other kind of thing. It might go a tiny bit up. It might go a tiny bit down. Either way, I think you're looking at a pretty damn similar season, which is basically a punt field goal guy. Punt field goal, Jalen Green was number 86 last year. If you also were in 8-cat, that moved him up a little bit farther. I think he's a guy that probably should be going around 80 if you're in that punt build. And if you're in straight 9-cat, you probably just let someone who's doing the punt build take him. I don't have a whole lot to add there. I think Jalen Green is just a guy that should be going around here in a punt field goal build. That's it. That's my whole analysis. He's going to do similar stuff. Speaking of punt field goal guys, but one on a team that we know is going to try to lose their ball games, Cam Thomas is an absolute prototype for a punt field goal guy. He's going to jack up shots like basketball is being canceled next week. He took 18 shots a game this last year while his minutes were being forced down by injury and tank. And this year, he's going to go out there and he's going to take shots until they tell him we don't want you on our team anymore. Because there was this whole qualifying offer, restricted free agency fight with him. We heard about all that throughout the offseason. They're not going to let him play the entire year. They're not going to let him do everything he wants. He's going to get yanked around by Jordy Fernandez because it doesn't seem like he's part of what the Nets are building anymore. He has animosity. They have some animosity. It's going to be a weird damn year. That said, if he falls really, really, really far, which who knows, maybe he does. He fell to like 120 in the industry draft we did. Then you kind of have no choice but to take a shot on him. But as long as he's still going inside the top 100, he is very much on my do not draft board. And I know you can say, Dan, last year, punt field goal, he was top 75. 8-cat punt field goal, he was top 65. I don't care. He played 25 games last year. I know there was injury involved. But now, like, he's coming out in his quotes basically leading into the year. One of the beat reporters for the Nets asked him if he was going to work on his passing to be, more of a team guy. And he was like, nah, I'm just going to be me. Oh, okay, great. So you're settling back in beautifully after all the contractual battles that went down. Yikes, I say. Yikes, I say. Cam Thomas could be a massive train wreck this year. I'm not saying he will be, but man, the risk is huge on this one. And if you have to take him in the 80s, it's very much not worth it. There are plenty of choices nearby that you'd rather take. In fact, even if I just look at guys that are pre-ranked behind Cam Thomas, Devin Vassell, Cam Johnson, John Collins, Draymond Green, Onyeka Okongwu, Santi Aldama. You need more than that? I can get you more than that, but we're going 2 to 3 rounds deeper at this point. No, just say no to this one. He's going to ruin your team somehow. In head-to-head, he's going to ruin your team because he's not going to be there for your playoffs. And Roto, he's going to ruin your team because his fantasy game is not robust particularly. If you wanted to really galaxy brain it on Cam Thomas, the move is to draft him, hope that he plays great for 3 weeks, and then unload fast. Like spend every waking moment proposing Cam Thomas-related trades to people. Shotgun approach until somebody finally clicks yes. But what's the point? You're not going to get somebody better than him. You might be able to get off for, a penny for a penny, basically thing. Even money. This show is also brought to you by our friends at HOF. That's F as in Frank, or Fame. The HOF app is your personalized analytics tool for making you a dynamite sports bettor. Because look, friends, sports bettors rely on data. And a group of Ivy Leaguers took all the data on Earth and turned it into this app. HOF app and the HOFapp.com website uses tens of thousands of data points from historical data on players, matchup data on players and teams, trends, because they're like players run hot and cold, and that actually does factor into how a team is playing. Player performance insights on a night-to-night, week-to-week basis. If you want to build prop bets, parlays, regular ATS wagers, totals, all that kind of stuff, the HOF app is your tool to being a better. And the nice part here is you don't actually have to understand analytics to use it. It takes all of that data and spits out something that you can digest. And for a limited time, our listeners here on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball get a 7-day free trial and 50% off the first month if you let it ride after the free trial, just using the code SQUAD, SQUAD. Download the HOF app on iOS or Android or go to HOFapp.com. Use code SQUAD at checkout. Get that 7-day free trial and 50% off the first month and go win some wagers, man. Make yourself a better sports bettor today. We've got one name left on the dumpers list. What did I call these guys? The hated ones. We call them the dumpers. That's Cal Raleigh, baby. John Morant down 2.6 slots. And this is one I'm going to be tracking really closely because, look, he didn't move that far, but he has continued to fall even over the last couple of days. He fell another 1.5 slots. I think this is really intriguing. His pre-rank fell to 50 on the news. Well, fell to 45, actually, on the news that he was dealing with a sprained ankle. Then it fell down to 50, even though Ja came out and basically said, I'm going to be fine. So he doesn't see this as any kind of issue. Ja thinks he's going to be ready by opening night. I'd like to see that I feel shades of the Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Oh, he's got a bad shoulder and he's sitting out most of the preseason. And remember that year, it was two seasons ago, 2 or 3 seasons ago, where Shai was going top 20 and then his shoulders messed up. They don't know when he's going to play, and he fell to 40. And then 5 days before the season, they were like, surprise, he's fine. But it was too late to adjust draft boards, so you could still get him at 35 to 40, even though we all knew he was going to be at least a second rounder. I don't think this is that, because I don't think Ja has anywhere near the 9-cat fantasy appeal of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But we are getting to a point here where Ja Morant is not that far away from a guy I'd consider in a lot of formats. He was number 50 in 8-cat last year. Turnovers really being the problem for him. He's not a bad foul shooter anymore. He still doesn't make that many threes, but his minutes were down last season due to injury. His games are always down due to injury or suspension or something. But no Desmond Bane means more for Ja. More free throws, which are now a positive for him. More assists, more points, more threes, more time on the court, probably. I think Ja Morant is probably going to be a top 48-cat guy this season. So if you're in a build where you're not all that concerned with turnovers, either you got a bunch of guys that are super low at turnovers at the beginning of your draft, or you're going to hard punt it, you're going to turn the other way, and you got 2 guys that are already really bad at them, and you're like, screw it, I'll just take another one. Ja Morant, I think, is probably going to be a little bit of a value here. Now, straight 9-cat, it's probably not going to be a guy I pick at this juncture. I think the injury stuff is probably too big of a factor on top of the turnovers. But if you're an 8-cat, this is where he belongs. And if he falls another, I don't know, let's say he starts going at the end of the 4th, beginning of the 5th, I think he ends up being a really nice 8-category play. 9-cat, he's not going to get there. I mean, as more usage means his turnovers might get up near 4 this year, even if the assists go up to 8 or 9. Like that's a lot of turnovers. 9-cat, you're probably looking at a guy that's going to struggle to get inside the top 60. But again, the 8-cat ceiling for Ja Morant this year is very high. So as much as you guys probably thought I was going to get on here and tell you that I dislike Ja Morant everywhere, I don't. I think there are a lot of spots where I'd consider Ja Morant, and this might be the first season I have him on any of my fantasy rosters. But I'm in some leagues where I'm in a couple of head-to-head leagues. I'm in that one I've talked about over the years that has 11 categories, volume-based league. Hell yeah, you're going Ja Morant, and you're praying for health. And then I'm in a regular head-to-head 9-category league where I don't know what my first-round pick is going to be, but if it's someone like a James Harden who's bad at turnovers, I might want to lean into that direction and get someone in the 4th round who scores a lot, because Harden doesn't. So maybe my 2nd and my 4th rounders need to be high-scoring types. I think there are a lot of teams that are gonna want Ja Morant in this range, and I think we're close to him actually being a value for, I want to say half of fantasy teams, because it's probably not that big, but probably somewhere between like 20 and 30% of fantasy teams are going to be hunting him in this range. Don't be surprised, and don't be completely sullied by his name. It'll be fine. And those are your hated 12, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching, everybody. Please remember all of our partners here on Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. This show brought to you by FanDuel, FanTrax, the HOF app, and by the letter Q, but also by my $1 Patreon. It's effectively a tip jar at this point. If you guys like what I'm doing and you want to keep it free forever, that's the way you do it. Who the hell's going to miss $1? You? That's fine. Don't do it then. I don't care. I'll still love all of you just for watching and liking and subscribing and finding me on social media. Those are all the free things, obviously. Fantrax is free. That's an easy one also. Fantrax.com/oldmansquad. That's free. Anyway, see you guys on Twitter at Dan Besbris, DanBesbris. You can also follow Old Man Squad on social media if you want the various feeds. That's where we put out the links to all the shows that drop, just in case you miss one. Other than that, enjoy your day. See you soon. I'm Dan. Bye-bye.